Welcome, everybody, to our Lift Up live broadcast. My co host and I, Georgia Harding, we're back for another Lift Up live event this month. And this time we're talking about the hiring for diversity in the workplace, which we're super excited about. We've gathered a lot of intel, great questions from our community network over the past 6 months, especially on how to encourage that diversity of hiring, both internally and externally, in the workplace within the life sciences space. So we have got joining us today four fabulous key speakers that have all reached a senior HR leader, CHRO level within the life sciences space globally that's going to be joining us. And we can't wait to bring them into this live room. But before we do, if you are completely new to the Lift Up community group, then Lift Up is all about championing, inspiring, and leveraging the relationships we've got within the life sciences space to champion others to grow and develop. And that is very much our mission statement, isn't it, Georgia?
Yes, definitely. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Very looking forward to this conversation today.
And I think it was summer of last year, wasn't it, Georgia? It was around August time that Lift Up Community was born. We
Yeah.
decided to kick off with our first live event last year in September, and we obviously run this every month now. We've had over 32 great key speakers that have joined us along the journey. And alongside that, we've had nearly 40,000 global views from all of the live broadcasts in which we've launched. So that's super exciting. I'm going to do a very quick introduction into myself, and then I'm going to pass this over to George to do before we bring in our key speakers. But I'm Louise Williams. I'm the Global Operations Director here at Fraser Dove International. I've been in staffing since 2005, so about 19 years now, 10 years specifically within the life sciences space, where when I joined, I very much worked within the clinical and medical arena, and I was a successful search consultant for quite a while before moving into management and director and leadership roles, and then joining Fraser Dove nearly 2.5 years ago now. I sit on the leadership panel here within the business, and very much an active Lift Up ambassador group, which has been a tremendous journey over the last year or so. I'm also a mother of two, so I have two, one 7-year-old girl and a 3-year-old boy that keep me super busy outside of work as well. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm going to pass this over to you now, Georgia.
So I'm Georgia Harding. I've been here at Fraser Dove for just over a year. I work as a search consultant in our sciences team, and very similar to Louise, my core focus really is the sort of clinical and medical positions. So anything from translational medicine through clinical development, all the way through to medical affairs, which is very exciting. And I love the sort of day to day of being able to talk to these incredible people. But prior to joining Fraser Dove, I just completed my master's in migration studies, which had a real sort of focus on a feminist lens. So it's incredible to really sort of be able to put what I learned into practice. Especially through this Lift Up Women in Life Sciences group. It's been incredible, as Louise said, to sort of be an ambassador right from the infancy all the way through to where we are today. So, very excited to see what we can continue to grow into 2024.
Thank you, Georgia. And it is great, isn't it? I think we too feel that we're learning a lot from the journey and all the conversations that we're having within this community group. Quick shout out to the audience. If you're completely new to joining us today, please get active in the comments, say hello, tell us where it is that you're dialing in from, not only geographically, but obviously put maybe the areas or the practice vertical areas in which you're working at within the life sciences space. We generally have a phenomenal global reach of people that dial into these events, and it's a great place to network within these comments. So say hello, pop the comments through, along with those of you that are new. We actually put in we request to put in a queue in front of any questions that you have for our key speakers as we move throughout the live broadcast. It makes it easier for Georgia and I to kind of navigate through the comments if there are any direct questions that you've got for our live panel this afternoon. Today, we are going for an hour as well because we've got four fabulous speakers. And I think that now is probably the right time to bring them in, isn't it, Georgia?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Lovely. So I'm going to pop in first. We've got Victoria Brown. Hello, Victoria. Lovely
Hi,
to have
thank
you.
you. Thank
No,
you
it's
for
lovely
having
to have
me.
you. Yeah. If you could do a introduction to the audience, that would be fabulous.
Sure. So, hello everyone. It's wonderful to be part of this terrific event. I was honored to be asked, and I'm alongside some terrific individuals. So I go by she, her pronouns, and apart from being the mother of two lovely women, married 27 years to a Belgian man, lover of life and of animals, I look after HR currently for a company called Veranova, which is an outsourced development and manufacturing service provider. I relocated actually from Europe after over 25 years to the Boston area to look after HR for Veranova. I look at my career in several buckets. I tend to be someone who says yes, probably too often and too much, and I tend to like discomfort, and I trust my instincts. So, first part of my career was in risk management and insurance. I was a broker. Second sort of part of my career was moving into executive search. Very strange jump, but that's how it is in my life. And then I moved into becoming a mother. So I took quite a long gap of raising our children. And then I moved into the life sciences. So 12 years I've been in life sciences in various HR roles. Probably spent the bulk of it at Catalent, another CDMO business. And I would tell you here that experience was probably the most pivotal in my career, just because I got to do a lot of wonderful things and I had terrific mentors and leaders helping me. So
Yeah.
That's me for now, and think this is a great opportunity to network and also get to know different individuals across the life science industry. So thank you for having me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Victoria. It's lovely to have you. Where did you relocate from, actually? I didn't realize that you relocated.
So I had been in London and Paris and Brussels. So Belgium was the last place that I had been. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Lovely. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to bring in Emily Terry. Hello, Emily. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Having me, I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, if you could do an introduction, that would be lovely.
Sure, of course. So my name is Emily Terry. I am from and currently live in Nashville, Tennessee with my husband, Zach, and our golden doodle, Willa. I've been in human capital for the last 7 years, first 5.5 years of my career in a boutique executive search firm called Elevation, where we specialized in senior leadership and executive search for VC and PE-backed organizations. It's an absolutely incredible ride. Then had the opportunity to join one of my clients of 3 years, Frazier Healthcare Partners, currently Vice President of Human Capital in the Center of Excellence team at Frazier Healthcare, which is a mid-market healthcare-focused private equity firm. We're investing out of our 10th fund today and focus on healthcare services, pharma services, healthcare technology, med equipment manufacturing, and in human capital, we support our portfolio companies across a myriad of programs, from performance management to recruitment and talent strategy to comp and benefits and ESG and DEIA programs. So particular specialization in executive recruitment, and really care about this topic. So thrilled to be here.
I love that. Thanks, Emily. And super exciting times, isn't it, for your business? And it's actually, when you've just listed what it kind of encompasses, the term human capital, you just don't realize how vast it actually is. But thank you. It's lovely to have you a part of this panel today. And we have Inge. Lovely to have you here. If you wouldn't mind doing an introduction as well.
Sure, happy to, and great to be here. Thanks for having me. So hi, everyone. My name is Inge Maes. I was born and raised back home in Belgium, and my first step in my career was I was a vet, so I graduated as a veterinarian and practiced for a couple of years. And then after a few years, I actually made the move into the pharma industry. I spent around 7 years in clinical development, learning all about clinical trials. And I think there's many people here on the call, and Georgia, you as well, that know what this means. And then I I moved into HR. So first,
That's quite a
supporting.
switch.
But I loved it. I had this like, oh, I think I have just arrived home. That was a bit the sentiment. And so I spent then, in the meantime, 15 years in HR, supported different businesses. My last role until this spring, I was the HR head of Sandoz, which recently was a division of Novartis Generics, and now a standalone company on the Swiss stock market. Married with one husband, 3 kids, 2 cats, 1 dog. That's a little bit of my life. And the other things that I've done education-wise, I have a master's degree around change management from INSEAD in Paris, and I am currently doing a coaching certification. I am in between roles, so I have time to actually explore that a bit more.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. And such a vast background as well. Lots of great skill sets learned along the journey. So it's lovely to have you here. Thank you, Inge. And Alicia, lovely to have you with us today. If you wouldn't mind doing an introduction as well to the audience, that'd be great.
Of course. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm excited to be here. My name is Alicia Jones. I have a very non-traditional career path, being that I started academically studying forensic pathology, and I was working as a bookkeeper. And I was very fortunate in my early career to have a mentor that said, "You're not a finance person. Come over here and do all this HR stuff with me," which I really didn't know what it was, and started doing some of that work. I loved it so much. I actually went back to school to get my degree in organizational leadership and have loved doing what I do. And I have started to, much like Victoria, I just said yes, and I tried a variety of things. I have been in and out of the biotech industry. I have been a GM. I ran a small plant for a few years. I have been in HR, a whole variety of HR roles and HR leadership, a lot of it global in the most recent years, which I love that touch on diversity and the global aspect to it. And personally, I am in Maryland, USA, living here with my husband, my son, and a menagerie of pets and critters that we have in our house. So I'm very excited for this talk today, very passionate about it, and glad to be here.
Thank you, Alicia. We've definitely got a theme of a lot of pets going on, haven't we? I don't have any pets. I need to get some pets. I've just got two kids. They can be very busy. But thank you for that, Alicia. Georgia, I think we've got a great deal of comments coming through and people dialing in. I don't know if you can see them coming through.
We go. We've got a whole range. Hi, Alexandra. Great to have you here from Warsaw in Poland. We've also got Assem dialing in from Egypt. Great to have you here. And we've got Andrea, a career coach from Budapest. It seems like we've truly got our global reach.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Georgia. We've got we've got a lot of people coming through. What we wanted to keep encouraging as best as possible is as we move throughout this live broadcast, it'd be great to have some questions from you as an audience. So just pop the Q in the front of your question to make it a little bit easier to navigate throughout the comments. So please pop those through as best as you can. It'd be great to see. But yeah, let's kind of get stuck into some of these questions, I think, because as a group of very experienced HR leaders within the life sciences space, I think we felt as a group as well, talking earlier, that maybe just a bit of a overview of what diversity means and why it's important is probably quite a nice way to kick off this broadcast from a summary topic perspective. So Victoria, I'll come to you with this one first, if that's okay.
Yes, of course. So there's I believe it's an Islamic proverb that says a lot of different flowers make a bouquet, and I think each of us have a unique lens. And as I was explaining earlier, I think it's the United Nations has recognized over 30 characteristics that represent diversity. But in truth, there are many, many more than that. And diversity is not really just about characteristics. So not just about ethnicity or gender or sexual orientation. I think we can say it's about mindsets and backgrounds. And, whether it's hair color, siblings, eye color, political party, it really is about your unique lens. And I think that the most sort of significant thing I've looked at recently is from Carla Harris. So Carla talks about the fact that everybody is somebody's child. So I think, diversity is really about your mindset and background, and recognizing that that is one thing we all have in common, is that everyone is someone's child. So we can't be too narrow in how we define diversity.
I think that's very well said. Absolutely. Not sure if there's anything to add to that. Emily, what are your thoughts there?
I would echo that completely. The way that I think about diversity are all of those little elements that make a human being unique. There's no other Emily Terry in the world. There's no other Alicia in the world. You are your own person, and it's your fabric that you get to share with the world. And it's really exciting to see companies not only care about diversity, but figure out how do we actually walk the walk by really educating ourselves on all these unique characteristics, mindsets, orientations in the world, so that we can then go put measurable action in place to celebrate those differences. So I think it's representation. I think it's celebrating unique gifts.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think the term that you mentioned there about the measurables and the initiatives, I think that when we come to looking at D&I and diversity, there is so much both from an internal and from an external perspective that organizations can be doing. And dare I say it, we've probably gone through quite a few years, 5 to 10 years ago, focusing very much on the external, and maybe even sort of what from a perception perspective, how companies are being perceived, and they want to be perceived in the right way. But then from an internal perspective, it's kind of like, but actually what are businesses doing under the bonnet, under the skin, to actually create those changes and create those initiatives? And then, like you've just mentioned there about the measurable kind of goals, to make sure that there is an improvement. And it's not just words. So I think, really, really well summarized. I love the bouquet of flowers. I've never heard of that phrase, but it's lovely. I love
An amazing way to phrase it.
It is, isn't it? So I think, Georgia, probably I think a question that came through from our community group, was it this one, Georgia, here?
Yeah, I think that follows on really nicely for what you were saying there, Louise, about how it's more than just that sort of surface level initiative. It needs to be the whole way through the business.
Yes, absolutely. And this came through, I think, our community group, didn't it, earlier? So how do you ensure that diversity is encouraged and implemented through the whole business as best practice and not just a tokenism? So Alicia, I know there's a little bit of a time delay here, but what are your thoughts with this question?
Yeah, this is so important. And I think a lot of panelists would probably agree from our previous discussions. It starts at the top. You have to have that buy-in. The board needs to be behind these initiatives. Leadership has to be behind these initiatives and aligned to what that means for your organization, defining the diversity goal and actually implementing those processes, measurements around those things to ensure that you're actually going to do it, and it's going to have a meaningful impact and result for your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Ignis, we talked about this, the last time that we spoke, and I know that you're, from a previous Sandoz, etc., there was quite a lot of implementation and talking about best practice. How would you caveat or go off the back of what Alicia just said?
Of course, 100% agree with what Alicia said. I think what is super important is to ensure coherence between what's being said or written and what's actually being done across the organization. And so are all the practices supporting what we're saying about diversity, equity, and inclusion? The hiring, the promoting, your parental leave, how you set up rewards, how you recognize people, how you develop people, what is the tone of your communications, but also, this is all internal. How do you also act externally with different stakeholders, communities you belong to? So I think that coherence between what is your approach to DNEI, how you talk about this, but then what you do, make that super coherent. Then when you get it wrong, learn from it and improve, right?
Yeah, and from I'd imagine, just touching upon your term of coherence, that's quite a challenging thing to do if you are, maybe a 20-person biotech or a smaller, perhaps PVC organization versus a global tens of thousand pharma size organization. I don't know. I don't know who's got a response, or Victoria, what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I was just laughing because, having worked for companies of 50,000 and now it's sort of 900, it is different. And that's why almost it's going to sound rudimentary, but I think as leaders, it starts with yourself, right? And kind of making sure that you're able to accept where you are and communicate where you are as an organization, and accept where you are as an organization and communicate where you want to go. So not looking for perfection, but as a leadership team, sort of saying, okay, looking at myself, where are my own sort of biases, where just embracing the topic as ever evolving, as opposed to trying to only to implement things, more about reflection, self-reflection, and teaching a community of, at the end of the day, organizations are a group of people. And if we each individually are, accepting where we are and communicating where we want to go in an authentic and open way, if you start with that, I actually think things will move, in the direction they need to move. So before, I think leadership is also about being honest that there's a fear factor going on, right? There's a fear factor as to why we stop progress because we're fearful. So we have to push through the fear. Who am I? Am I doing the right thing? All leaders at all levels are fearful about doing the right thing, because it could all go terribly wrong, right? But
yeah,
so
no. It's a very it's a very humble way. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a very very open, humble thought process and response there. And I think you're absolutely right. Emily, from a size of an organization and from your experience, from an implementation and a best practice, how easy have you found certain initiatives to roll out from your point of view?
Easy is a tricky word, right? Because it's so challenging. It's so challenging, and I think Victoria makes a really good point of it. You've got to start with, well, I would maybe even proceed with the why. Like, why is this important to us as an organization? What are we looking to get out of this? How are we going to measure it? How are we going to hold each other accountable to that? And are we going to give ourselves the grace to continue to refine and mold this as we keep learning and as we keep growing as an organization? Yeah. So I think it is made easier by getting very aligned on those different points. That way you've got this collective buy-in for the value of something like this, and you will inevitably begin to see how this impacts performance, how this impacts representation in your organization. It's going to impact how you attract talent. Yeah. And it's so I'd say it's not easy at all. It's really, really hard, but you've got to go look for the resources, and you got to educate yourself, and then really, really humble yourself as well. We all have biases, and we've got to really uncover those so we can make progress.
Yeah, and that's an interesting topic, actually, just to use the term biases, and we're going to come into some initiatives, I think, later on. But just something, Emily, whilst we're touching sort of within your world and what you've just said there, statistics have shown diverse companies are 35% more likely to outperform financially compared to less diverse companies. Now, this was statistics taken around 7 months ago, so earlier this year, and just from a thought process, obviously you sitting in the world of PVC perspective, is this a factor that you look at when you're thinking about investing in other organizations and companies, how diverse their talent is?
Yeah, absolutely. Through the diligence process, we evaluate ESG risks to the value maximization plan that we're underwriting, and that includes DEI risks as well for either potential new platform investments or add-on acquisitions. And that basically informs our onboarding game plan of how do we start to recommend programs to mitigate risks like that. And then we, for the portfolio companies at Frazier, we measure and we track DEIA KPIs, both internally at Frazier as well as across our portfolio companies, because we want to walk the walk as well. So for every majority-owned portfolio company that we have, we leverage a proprietary Frazier scorecard that holds all these different DEIA for advancement. We added that elements that we can very easily correlate to financial performance. So yes, it's really, really important to us. We like to hold ourselves accountable to that, as well as our portfolio companies on really breathing representation into their organizations.
Yeah, no, that's a excellent insight. I think, excellent insight. And I love the fact that what you're saying as well is very important, as you as an organization as well, is kind of walking the talk, isn't it? I think that's a really important aspect. But an interesting statistic that I think came through from one of our community members actually earlier this week, and it probably feeds quite nicely as well through to this. Hiring diverse talent is a critical aspect of building a strong, innovative workforce. So what are some of the initiatives that you could put in place to support the hiring of diversity? Ignis, we'll come to you with your sort of thoughts in regards to this.
Yeah, no, happy to share. I have a bit of a preference for, data and evidence-based, and I guess many people here on the call as well. And one of the interesting studies that has been done is, let me start with this. Most people believe in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace, but we talked about biases, implicit and unconscious. We all have them, right? And there was a study done built on the assumption that we all have a lot to do at work, and actually the constant juggling of different priorities may lead to inequitable decision making, just because we don't have the mental space to do that. And so the question is, how can we make sure that people have D&EI at top of their mind when they're making decisions, for example, around recruitment? And so there's two things that one can do there is actually ask managers to hire for more than one job at a time, if you have that option. So instead of saying, I hire a person in 1, 2, and 3, go for hiring as a group, because when you make a collective hiring decision, you will make more diverse choices. The other thing which I thought was really cool was, we all know about diversity training, and it's super important to build our knowledge there, but the impact is somewhat limited to some extent. And there's a suggestion to actually use a very short few minutes video on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and show that at the time that people go into a recruitment process. So they have it top of mind. And again, the data here of this study, and I can share it afterwards for sharing, show that people make more diverse decisions, if you want, in a recruitment process. So I thought these were two very cool, very simple ideas to implement. Just to name two, huh?
Yeah, no, thank you. That's really insightful. And I think, Alicia, we spoke about this earlier, didn't we, in regards to some initiatives around hiring and your training programs internally, if I remember rightly. So what are your thoughts in regards to some of the initiatives here?
Yeah. Yeah, and to echo what we've mentioned already, you've got to get that buy-in first from top leadership, but then that has to cascade down. So as mentioned, we also need to train those middle managers, the line managers, the hiring managers, and what that means to us. Those recruitment processes can be enhanced through standardizing the work, having standard criteria, standardizing the processes, to then look at things like your job descriptions. Are they open? Are they written with neutral language? Are you really asking for what you really need on that job, and helping those hiring managers define that criteria? But even when that's done, I think what you're mentioning is what we talked about with the pilot programs I've been very fortunate to work with. If you're not sure if say a deaf or hard of hearing person can work on your manufacturing floor, pilot it. I have done that with great success. You can work with those individuals and potentially, if they have their own job coaches, and you can pilot programs to enhance your diversity, to make it work for the business, yourself, and those individuals. So there's a lot of really innovative and pretty low cost and easy ways to do that.
Yeah, I love that. Some great advice. I think these training programs, I've actually spoken to quite a few HR professionals recently that are certainly using that kind of model from a high, just for consistency as well, and to ensure that the same platforms and the thought process around covering the diversity is there across all teams set up within the organizations is really key. So thank you for sharing that, Alicia. Victoria, what are your thoughts in regards to these initiatives put in place internally?
So I think that, again, just joining an organization that we're building something, the two areas that I know we're focused on are continuous listening and workforce analytics. So, where are we today? What are we trying to build? And I think the listening part and understanding what, the different parts of the organization are looking for, and being open to, again, showing that we don't know it all and we're looking for buy-in from across the organization. So my mindset as just joining this company is continuous listening and workforce analytics. So what am I hearing? What's actually happening? And where do we want to go? I think the other thing is, I think we did this in my previous organization, which I thought was fantastic, is, kind of be you campaigns where you're actually having people across the organization that are speaking about, who they are, what they're about, how they bring their whole self to work, and really allowing that to happen, on a regular basis and having it be part of your, your cultural web of your company.
Yeah. No, I love that. The cultural web, that's a great terminology to use. So interestingly, I think there was another question which kind of tied in quite nicely with, once people are actually in the business, so we're talking about hiring and bringing people in, the question here that came through was, how do you ensure that all of these diverse populations feel equally included and welcomed within the wider business? So I guess, are there kind of plans, initiatives that you have, whether it's on onboarding, pre-boarding, onboarding, or when they're already in the organization from a cultural workplace environment? Are there things that you are trying to create as CHROs, VPHRs, to create that comfortable dynamic internally? Emily, come to you with this one.
Sure, I could name a myriad of examples, but what comes to mind, a great way to collect data across your employee population is through things like engagement surveys, and really getting a feel from your employees about what's important to them, and creating a safe space for employees to confidentially speak to what they need, and then from there, leveraging that data to think through what are the types of initiatives that are going to be the most meaningful to my employee population. So it's just a little bit more thoughtful approach. So many of our portfolio companies leveraging engagement survey tools to collect that data. We offer various leadership development programs at every level, from frontline workers to key executive leaders, because I think it was Alicia earlier who said, like, it's so important to get buy-in and awareness at every level. And so leadership development programs, opportunities for people to advance and have access to opportunities that will enable their advancement within the organization is key. And then internally at Frazier, some of the things that our group does, we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion cohort or committee that comes together, and there's a subgroup for each of those acronyms. And we have an inclusion group, for example, that recognized, gosh, we have a growing women at Frazier workforce, and we have a growing remote employee workforce at Frazier, just as two examples. And so we created these inclusion groups. So every I think it's either every month or every quarter, those pockets of Frazier get together And it may seem like a small initiative, but it's been really meaningful for me, both as a woman at Frazier as well as a remote employee at Frazier, to make me feel really connected and seen. And my work is not just about what I produce, but it's about me as a human being and being a part of something bigger than myself.
Yeah, no, I love that, Emily. And I think that, look, especially since the pandemic and the, remote working going through kind of the roof compared to where it was, it's definitely a challenge in which, some individuals, really suffer from. They like the flexibility of working from home, but they're not getting the, kind of engagement and the kind of communication and collaborative nature that you would get if you were in office with other peers. So that's a great initiative to put into place. Alicia, what are your thoughts with this?
Yeah, I think to echo what Emily said, I think having these employee-led groups is really important. They have that buy-in and ownership of where they want to go with it, what they want to do. And I think you have to put leadership sponsorship behind that, right? You need to have that, again, connection into the organization and the why we're doing this, and have the leadership buy-in always behind that. And one of the other things that I have also pushed to do is make sure they have a budget. Being able to fund initiatives and do things that they need to do is really critical, because otherwise you're just sort of talking about it and adding that to their space without really giving them the tools to be able to take ideas further along. So how you support them and the infrastructure that goes along with those employee-led groups is super important.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's a great bit of advice. Georgia, just aware that there's quite a few comments coming through from the audience. I'm not sure if there's any questions in there or some things that you've managed to see.
No, we've got a great question, which I think ties in really nicely from Marissa, actually, asking our panelists to speak on their experiences.
Oh. Could you share a story with us where you hired a candidate with a more diverse profile versus one that was traditionally hired, and how the diversity brought something new to the organization? That's a big question, Marissa.
That is a big question.
I know. I'm sure they're all sitting there thinking, because sometimes I appreciate if it's a big corporate organization, that hire, you might have sat in as a panel, but obviously they're now sitting within a team, perhaps. But I don't know. I don't know who to pick here.
I can give it a
jump in.
And hi, Marissa. I know each other from past times. So I'm thinking of one example where we actually brought a female leader on board for a key leadership role in a market that she was not familiar to. And so for her, it was a big step, both content-wise, because it was a different function and a different market. But with my leader, we felt that she brought the right mindset, the right learning mindset, what was needed for that business. But some of the rest of the organization looked at us and thought, oh my God, this is a big risk, right? And it's been an amazing journey, I think, for both the person in the role as well as the organization, and really brought a different style and a different thinking, not to say what was in the past was not good, but it just built on and brought more diversity of thought to that organization, and it was needed at that time. So it was really a link also to the business environment. And of course, we were a little bit like, okay, let's take this risk if you want. Let's also tell that leader, yes, we know you have to learn and grow. And it's been an amazing success, and the person is doing fabulous. I'm going to quickly tag on a data point. Ericsson, the company Ericsson, has done a study on getting more women internal mobility, right? Getting more candidates. What they have found out is, so they tested different messaging, right? Here, a female leader talking about apply to our roles, saying that we support diversity, and same message apply for our roles. And the third message was, you don't need to have all the skills already for the roles that are posted, please apply to our roles. This last one made a difference and increased the number of diverse candidates applying. So I think that fits nicely to this woman that we put in the role that had to grow and develop, she might not have raised her hand herself. And I think that's what we need to do, create these opportunities. So I don't know whether it answers Beris's question, but that's the one that came to my mind when I saw
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think thank you very much for being so open with that. And thanks, Marissa, for the question. I think it just highlights, how diversity is such a broad term, and diversity covers so much that I think Victoria did a fantastic job of summarizing at the very beginning of this live event. There's another question here from Jason. That is our head of pharma and biostream here within Fraser Dove, but it's a great question here. So what is the best way to ensure a diverse talent pool during a recruitment process outside of directly asking for applicants' diverse characteristics? As statistics show, people do not always like to disclose this, or obviously in some states, there are legislations around what you can ask and what you can't ask. So, we've seen this, I guess, from a Fraser Dove international perspective, obviously executive search talent consultancy, that we are often getting advised by a lot of our partnerships and clients that we work with, how are we ensuring that diverse talent pool? When you obviously are going out externally to the markets, are there any specific recruitment processes that you're using to support that? Alicia, I'll come to you. I know there's a bit of a time delay, but that's fine.
Yep, I'm hopefully catching up with everyone as we go through this. Yeah, so this is an exciting area for me because I'd love to learn from everybody else as well. What I have done and what seems to work well, it's about visibility for me. And so it's about finding unusual, unique, different, diverse variety of target areas to advertise. It's getting your job, your role visible to populations that maybe wouldn't normally apply. And some of that is, again, around writing those job descriptions the right way with that neutral language, being really critical about the ask and the criteria, and having it be as open as possible, and then get the visibility into the areas that maybe are untapped. So that might be going to specific job boards or career fairs or things that are serving those alternate populations that you're seeking.
Yeah, great advice, Alicia. And I think, there's things like, universities or various different academic sites as well. I think Ignace's comment earlier on in the process around if there is any opportunity to hire for potentially more than one individual and hire a pool of or a team that can create some diversity in that group that is joining. Victoria, have you got any thoughts in regards to this through your previous new current experience?
Well, in terms of, I also think we, again, as you can all see, take us a bit of self-reflection in terms of what are we advertising as a company. So just making sure that we have diversity across the organization, that we're promoting that from within. I think also having peer reviews and making sure that, we do dry runs in terms of making sure that we have a panel of interviewers who are diverse themselves, that represent the community that we're hiring for. I think the one comment I wanted to make on all of this, and again, I go this direction because I think it's important. I think in the realm of D&I in general, imitation isn't flattery. So I think it's really important that as an organization and as individuals, we know who we are and where we want to go. And yes, we all want to make sure we're diverse, but we're going to be diverse in different ways. So it's really important that each company find what's unique to itself and the individuals. And what is it what is our purpose as an organization? And so therefore, which individuals are really going to, and that's where I say the sense of purpose and that authenticity is important, because what's going to be right for Veranova is not going to necessarily be right for another organization. So the only way we'll be successful at DEI is to make sure that it's authentically our effort and not necessarily an imitation of something else.
Yeah, that's I love that, and the purpose and the why is so important, isn't it, Georgia? But a great question there, Jason. Thank you. I think we've got some really good advice there. Was there anything else there that you're seeing coming through? Did you say, Georgia?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got a little bit more of a personal one. So
Mhm.
Jeremy's written into us stating that he's got a mixed feedback on disclosing his blindness in cover letters and really wants to sort of soundboard with our panelists to get their thoughts.
Mhm. So what have we got here? So gotten mixed feedback on disclosing my blindness in cover letters, which I only do if it strengthens my application to direct a VP organisation development and L&D roles. Do you want to know? Do you not? Is this positioning me to be rejected because people aren't sure how a blind guy like me might, for example, facilitate a large group meeting? Just looking for thoughts. Well, thank you for being really open, Jeremy. And that's quite a an in-depth deep question. Ignis, I don't know what your
Yes.
thoughts are in regards to this.
So very personal answer. Please do put it in. It would just pique my curiosity to get to know you massively, and we would learn so much from what you've been doing. And of course, we then shouldn't get all biased, right, in the positive sense of the word. But please put it in. I think it's an absolute plus from my point of view. And I would go as far as to say, if recruiters or hiring managers are put off by this, this is not an organization you want to join. But that's my very personal strong view.
No, I think that's but this is the epitome of what we're trying to talk about, isn't it? Today it's not being biased. It's about creating diversity. We've had a lot of conversations, I think, Georgia and I, over the last couple of months with CHROs and VPs around the term diversity, as we obviously discovered and diagnosed pretty early in this live, but that covers everything, and not just ethnicity and race, but gender, sexuality, neurodiversity. And we had a great story from somebody, I think it was in Europe, who'd hired somebody who was deaf, who had taken an awful long time to try and find employment, and they've given an excellent opportunity for, and is flourishing in their business and in the role. So I just think that was a fantastic story when I heard. So Jeremy, great bit of advice from Ignis. I just think always be your true self, always be authentic, and definitely put it in. So thank you for that. Georgia, keep coming back to you because I feel like there's quite a lot of questions
No,
going on
definitely.
but we have got a really interesting one that came through from our Lift Up community group that I'm really keen to just share, because somebody recently touched upon I think the terms technology and AI, and there was an interesting one that came through, and I'm just trying to navigate it. Here we go. So with an increase in the implementation of AI and other data tools within the hiring process, how is this influencing diversity within the candidate pool? Now, this is an interesting one, isn't it? And I'm sure, Emily, within your world, certainly with investment, kind of AI and machine learning is going through the roof. And I'd imagine it's an element of what it is you're looking for when you're looking at future organizations to invest in. But are you seeing these kind of AI data tools being used more and more from a hiring perspective?
Yeah, we are. We have a data and AI practice in our Center of Excellence team at Frazier, and I've talked about this with them a ton of how do we treat AI responsibly in human capital, because we cannot ignore AI, in my opinion, and it can be leveraged really, really positively in the hiring, recruitment, retention process. But there's also some serious implications if we start talking about removing the human element from hiring. So there's positives, there's implications, and what we're thinking through right now as a private equity partner is what's the right set of tools that we make available to our portfolio companies to treat this responsibly. What's the right governance structure, and how can we be a resource in educating, right? So I think that there's a lot of value in figuring out ways to take a more data-driven approach to hiring, thinking about, gosh, how could this open up our access to talent pools that may not be visible to our human eye, but where AI is able to have a better reach. So broader range of sources for sure, and can help to bring, and I'm not necessarily speaking from personal experience because I'm in the exploration phase myself, and I'm learning and consuming, but I think that it can bring a sense of really rich efficiency to the recruitment or talent identification and recruitment process.
Yeah.
But obviously implications rest in, okay, AI is relying on historical data, and often there are biases infused in historical data that could seriously implicate our hiring practices if we're not careful and monitoring and constantly training those AI models.
Yeah.
So I go back to, gosh, it's really important to audit. It's really important to have human beings involved in leveraging this technology responsibly so that we can feel really confident about the way we're approaching talent acquisition, and removing discriminatory, bias that may creep in by leveraging technology.
I think that's, yeah, really well put. And it's almost like it's there as a tool. Sorry, my light's gone out. It's there as a tool, to support and to aid, but you can't almost leave the platform to run itself and do its own job, because I think that like I see the AI from a hiring tool, it could be an excellent way of cutting out biases when it comes to creating job descriptions, for example. The kind of the male, the feminine kind of language, then you can eliminate a lot of that by using certain, tools from the creation of JDs and job descriptions. But the bit that you mentioned there, Emily, around historical data and gathering of that was a really interesting element that I hadn't even actually thought about. So the importance of a human still staying close to that platform and technology is a really great way of describing that, I think. Victoria, what are your thoughts with this? Because I think Veranova, are you sort of using various AI tools now within the organization?
Can you hear me? Because I went frozen.
You have frozen, but we can hear you.
Okay,
So
that's fine. I don't mind to be frozen.
You keep going.
So actually, it's also something that we're exploring now. I think for me, again, I think that it's a balance. The biggest thing is the human oversight. I think all of data analytics are critical to understanding where you are as an organization, but it's almost like I use this in our pre-panel discussion. When you look at the scale, that's a number, right? I'm a certain weight, but that's not who I am. So I think the human oversight of any of the analytics are really, really important. I do worry a little bit of, sort of the lack of transparency when you use AI, but
I think we've just lost her. That might have been a signaling problem. She was really onto something there as well. So don't worry, I'm sure we'll get her back in a bit. Alicia, I know that you've got a bit of a time delay as well, but what are your thoughts with the AI and the data tools?
Yeah, I think AI has immense potential. I think about how you could use it for removing biases such as, blind screening, right? You could use AI to redact out names in schools and things that could lead in bias in the screening process. However,
Right.
I think where maybe Victoria was going, and I can hand back over if she's back, is there's risk involved. We have to understand the risks involved and mitigate those unintended consequences that come up with that, interpreting how the tool is working for us. And is it yielding the results we want? And is it doing it, is it not introducing bias, right? We don't want to try to eliminate all this bias using a tool and then have the tool introduce a bias that we were unaware of. So you have to be aware of the tool, its output, how it's working. I agree with the human oversight piece. And then I think maybe a comment that she was going to be talking about is the lack of transparency. I think for the candidate base out there, there's still a lot of public opinion, positive and negative, around AI. And I am not personally seeing a lot of transparency around the companies that are using this for screening tools. And how are they mitigating that bias? I think many candidates, even removing the AI piece that I've worked with, do express an interest and care about a company's diversity, how they're doing it, how they are managing it. And AI is just another piece of that.
Thank
so
you.
Having that transparency and knowledge around it, I think, could be positive. Please add more, Victoria, if I missed anything.
No, thank you. No, it's all good.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alicia. And Ignis, have you got any other thoughts in regards to, when you were at Sandoz and the AI data tools, perhaps being used there?
Not more to be said than what my fantastic colleagues have already shared. So thanks for asking. Yeah.
No, that's good. Well, I know that we're running short on time. We've obviously got some great comments through, so really enjoying the insights being shared so far. Thank you, Joseph. We've also got Andrew, interestingly said, should D&I actually be I&D? Sounds like the inclusion comes first. That's from our CCO here at Fraser Dove. So yeah, we've got lots of questions that are still here that unfortunately I don't think we're going to have the time to get through, unfortunately, within the hour. But a question that I'd like to come to you all with is, I guess here, what is the one pivotal moment you had throughout your career, which I do think is an always interesting and exciting one to share with the audience. But if I could also caveat on the back, if there was one bit of advice that you would then give, maybe from a hiring perspective or from everything that we've just talked about, what's the one thing that you would give advice on to an audience moving forward? So I'll come to you, Emily, first with this one.
Sure. I could speak to a few different ones, but one that immediately comes to mind is when my previous board and CEO at Elevation approached me about stepping into a leadership role really early in my career. And that was pivotal for me because A, it was an immense honor, but B, I was just wowed by the leaders around me that wanted to support my growth and that saw something in me that I wasn't necessarily seeing in myself quite yet in my career. And so it was a very transformative moment for me to have senior leaders identify some potential in me and give me some rope to try things and to succeed and to flop and learn. So the advice that I would give to my younger self and to others is, gosh, keep working for companies and for leaders that not only support, but really celebrate your unique gifts, and do not diminish yourself or your worth, because you deserve a seat at the table and you're not an imposter.
Wow, love that. That was powerful. That was, Emily. Thank you. Yeah, very, very, very touching as well. No, love that. Victoria, I'm going to come to you with this one. So, pivotal moment and best piece of advice.
So like many, lots of pivotal moments. I would say, for me, the biggest was, I had a life loss, and it was very, very impactful. And I went to see a wonderful woman who's become, one of my lifelong coaches. And, I just said, I have no idea where to go. And she just, kind of helped me figure out what was important to me. And she just said, just keep going forward, just keep moving forward one step at a time, and think about finding things that, speak to your instincts and speak to who you are as a person. So it really was a life-changing event that happened. And I just realized we are all, on this planet moving forward, and you can't, there are things that are bigger than we are, that are almost more important than what we're going to do in our jobs. So do find things that bring you purpose. I think the biggest piece of advice that I have is seek discomfort. I think discomfort is the best way to challenge yourself and to learn and to get some of the greatest challenges out there. So seek discomfort and have a lot of humility as you're doing that.
I love that. That's really lovely. Thank you very much for sharing that, Victoria. I think it does come back to, we can so easily get, lost with the journeys that we're on day to day, week to week. Life can be a blur between home life and work, and sometimes just stepping back and, having that reflection time, or bringing back what the purpose is. And you used the word purpose. I think that's a lovely phrase to use. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Victoria. And Ignis, I'll come to you with the same question.
Yes. So for me, it was the move into HR, as I said in the beginning. And a big part of it was how I was being welcomed and supported. So a bit of a similar theme there. On advice for myself or my younger self, on top of the amazing things that I just heard before, is I would say staying curious. Don't take yourself too seriously. Have fun, and I would end with be kind always.
Yeah. That's lovely. I mean, the real combination between believing in yourself and not being that, that imposter so sinking in from Emily, and then Victoria, the purpose and being uncomfortable. We often talk here about stepping out of your comfort zone, and growth is outside the comfort zone. Yeah, fantastic comments, and I'll come to you lastly with the same question, Alicia.
Yes. So I think mine, as everyone, have had several different pivotal moments, but definitely the move from finance into leadership and organizational development was a big switch, and moving into HR and just having that openness to learn and try something new. And so my advice would actually be twofold. The first one would be, I did that very much alone. I was an HR of one. There's no need to do that anymore. Have a good network, reach out to groups like this, talk to your peers and your colleagues, and then be scared, but do it anyways. So I'd say be brave, take the leap, try something new, and just go for it and lean on your support group to help.
That's great.
Lovely. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. So Georgia, I think that's probably it, isn't it? I mean, we've literally hit the 60 minutes pretty much on the nose. So we obviously want to say thank you so much. I think, have you seen this comment from Jeremy, Georgia? Don't know whether you've spotted
Yes,
that one.
I have.
Just saying, absolutely appreciate each of you and your perspective, hoping your paths will professionally cross and that you get to know me and I get to know you. Love that. No worries, Jeremy. That's what this community is all about, is just bringing people together and, championing, inspiring others. We've had an interesting conversation. Thanks for sharing, Stephanie. Thank you for sharing in your authenticity from Shelley. So yeah, it's been absolutely great to have you four as part of our panel today. Excellent insights. Great amount of authenticity and humbleness as well. So thank you. I know Georgia and I have really enjoyed this. And also to the audience, thank you so much for all of your questions that have come through and for dialing in today. As always, this is going to be up and available on our Lift Up community page, which I'm just trying to find the link for. Here we go. So the Lift Up page, we obviously have a open community page where all of our content, so our podcasts, our Lift Up journeys, we've got our new official podcast being launched again, I think by Katie Barber, isn't it, in the new year?
Yes,
she's been
very
working
exciting.
super hard on getting a lot of recording done. Anything else to add to that, Georgia? I think we've got the Lift Up Connect.
Yes, hopefully getting some more in-person events set up for 2024, so looking forward to seeing some of you there.
Yeah, so it's all go. We've also got the private membership group as well, which is growing, and that's also found through the Lift Up community page. But for now, thank you so much for joining as always, and thank you, Alicia, Victoria, Inge, and Emily. It's lovely to have you here today, and take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye. Bye bye.
Everyone, bye bye.